Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man sara ala sabilihi ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue our study in the book Al-Mulaqis Al-Fiqhi by Shaykh Salih Fawzan, Hafidullah. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be discussing the chapter that relates to Salat, which is named Bab Fi Awqat Manhi Anis Salat Fiha. Those times where the Salat is forbidden. So we discuss this, so this will be our discussion as to what is said regarding those times that it is forbidden, prohibited from one to perform the Salah.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Chapter 18. Times when the prayer is forbidden. Qala ma'allif hafidhahullah. We have introduced above some of the rulings on the supererogatory prayers, and now we are going to point out that there are certain times at which prayer is forbidden, as narrated to have been pointed out by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, there are some exceptions concerning this judgment. There are 5 times at which performing prayer is forbidden.
Aywa. So the author, Hafidullah, has started out concerning this particular discussion that mentions that of those things that relates to ahkam salat is the person having awareness and knowledge of those times that one is not allowed to pray certain salat. And so that is the matter to be discussed. What are those times that we're not allowed to pray? And we discuss concerning these times that is forbidden, and also are there exceptions to this rule. So the Shaykh Hafidullah will mention that there are exceptions to the rule, and we discuss what are those exceptions. So is knowing which salat we're not to pray at what time, and also which salawat that they are outside or they are an exception to this rule. So he mentioned in brief concerning وهي أوقات خمسة, it's 5 times. So this concern the method of the Hanabila is that they split into 2 view amongst the Hanabila. Those who take the position that the awqat, those times that it is forbidden for one to pray, that as the Shaykh mentioned here, خمسة أوقات, that is 5 times of the day that one is not allowed to pray during those times. And also amongst some of the Hanabila, and of them al-Khiraki, of the ulama of the Hanabila and others, who takes the position that awqat al-manhi, the time that it is forbidden to pray, it is thalatha, that it is 3 times that it is forbidden for one to pray. So we discussed as the Shaykh mentioned here, but to bear in mind amongst the Hanabila that the time that is forbidden for one to pray is 3 times, and others who take the position it is 5 times, as mentioned by the author here.
Qala ma'allif hafidhahullah. The first time starts from the second, the factual time of dawn, to sunrise. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when the dawn breaks, no prayer is to be performed except the 2 raka'ah units of the Fajr prayer, i.e. the supererogatory raka'ahs of the Fajr prayer, related by Ahmad, Abu Dawood and other compilers of hadith. Therefore, when the dawn breaks, one should not perform any supererogatory prayer except the 2 raka'ahs of the Fajr prayer.
Aywa. So the author, Afidullah, that he mentioned concerning, as for those 5 times that I mentioned regarding that one is not allowed to pray, that he mentioned, the first is regarding, I mentioned from Tulu al-Fajr, from the time that Fajr actually comes in until Tulu al-Shams, until the sun's rises. And that is concerning that, and that the person is only allowed to pray rak'atain, which is from the time that the Fajr starts until the person prays Salatul Fajr. The one is only, according to the author, one is only allowed to pray rak'atain, and one should not exceed this. So anything outside those rak'atain or Salatul Fajr, then one should not be involved in any other salat. That's and then he mentioned concerning the hadith that إِذَا تَلَى الْفَجْرِ فَلَا صَلَى إِلَّا رَكَعَتَيْنِ الْفَجْرِ. So this hadith kind of somewhat mentioned that when Fajr comes in, or the dawn sets in, فَلَا صَلَى, there is no salah, إِلَّا رَكَعَتَيْ الْفَجْرِ, there is no salat except Salatul Fajr, Rak'atain al-Fajr. So, and the hadith is narrated by Ahmed and also Abu Dawood, rahimahullah, tabarak ta'ala. And this hadith is authenticated by Shaykh Al-Albani based upon Majmu' al-Turuq. So the hadith is authenticated by Shaykh Al-Albani based upon all the narration of this hadith. So this hadith, it is narrated also by Ibn Umar, Abu Huraira, and also Ibn Umar. So with all those narration, it gives strength to this hadith, as mentioned by the author. So that's concerning the first of those forbidden time.
Qala ma'allif hafidhahullah. The second time starts from the time of sunrise until the sun reaches the height of a spear in one's sight above the horizon.
So the second time that author rahimahullah mentioned is regarding after Salatul Fajr. So after the person have prayed their Salatul Fajr until then the sun rises, then also the person is not to pray. So that's concerning the second time. So with some of the ulama, as the author here, that they divide the time of Fajr into 2 times. Of the ulama who takes concerning that, the forbidden time is for Fajr is from after praying Fajr until the sun completely rises. So not divided into 2, but rather they see it as just one timing. But the author here, they divide it into 2 times.
قال مؤلف حفظه الله, the third time starts from the time when the sun is at its height at midday until it passes over the meridian. This time is known as the time when shade stops, i.e. it does not increase nor does it decrease until it starts moving towards the west. Uqba ibn Amir narrated radiyallahu anhu, there are times at which Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade us to perform prayer or bury our dead, and they are when the sun begins to rise until it is fully up, when the sun is at its height at midday until it passes over the meridian, and when the sun draws near to setting until it sets, related by Imam Muslim.
So the third of those times that author rahimullah hafidullah mentioned regarding at the middle of the day, or the middle of the day regarding when the sun reaches meridian, which is up the peak, then at that time also one is not to pray. And this time the ulama cannot mention that regarding that this hour is not very long, it's about maybe 15 to about half an hour. So regarding that time of the day is the middle of the day, as we said, when the sun is at the peak of the peak, where it's then start to move away. So at that time the person would not pray, but as we mentioned, that time is very short, doesn't exceed half an hour.
قال مؤلف حفظه الله, the fourth time starts from the time of the Asr, afternoon prayer, until the sun sets. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no prayer should be performed after the Fajr prayer until the sun rises, and no prayer should be performed after the Asr prayer until the sun sets. Related by Al-Bukhari and Al-Muslim.
So this starts of the fourth of those times regarding when it is forbidden for one to pray, and the time after Salat Al-Asr. So after Salat Al-Asr, then the author mentioned that this is also of those times that one is not to pray. So after the person have prayed after Salat Al-Asr, then also the person is forbidden to pray until that time it ends.
قال مؤلف حفظه الله, the fifth time starts from the time when the sun starts setting until it sets. The Muslim person should know that it is permissible for one to make up for missed prayers at such forbidden times. This is based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If anyone misses a prayer out of oversleeping or forgetfulness, he must perform it once he remembers. Related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
So the author then, after discussing those times regarding when it is forbidden for one to pray, then he mentioned regarding that of those things that there's an exception to the rule. So you might find, so regarding these forbidden time, also there's our exception regarding within these forbidden time that there's certain salat that still can be performed. Then you start to outline or to clarify some of those salawat that can be prayed in the time that is one is normally expected not to pray. So with this matter, the ulama mentioned regarding those forbidden time that has been outlined, which is the Shaykh that is mentioned regarding after Salat, Ba'da Salatul Fajr, until the sun rises. Also second, at the meridian, the middle of the day. And also the third, after Salatul Asr. So after those are the 3 times in general that one is not allowed to pray. So regarding concerning that, if a person wants to pray, is a person allowed? They mentioned that for tahrim as-salat tatawwa. So regarding concerning what the person is not allowed to pray during those times, and also the hukum that applies to the person wants to pray, those salat that are said to be salat at-tatawwa al-nafila. So those salat which is a nafila that has no per se reason why praying those salat in these times, and the ulama mentioned that في هذه أوقات لا تنعقد, that is salawat that of the nafila mutla nafila, then those salat, they are not said to be valid if prayed during that time. And they mention, even if the person who was to perform these salat during this time, that they did out of jahl, out of ignorance, or they did out of regarding that these times are forbidden time to pray, or the salat was done out of knowing the ruling, that a person didn't understand or was aware that it is forbidden. There are certain times that one is not to pray because of their lack of knowledge. Then they mention that with all this, then the ruling still applies to those salat, still applies to those salat where they're considered to be invalid, whether the person have ignorance. And this is based upon the general hadith that have come to us regarding this matter, that mention the nahi, that it is forbidden for one to do so. And from these nahi, then I mentioned that nahi fil ibadat yaqtadi al-fasad, that concerning when something is forbidden, prohibited, then it takes from this that it becomes, if it is done, it is something which is fad, it's something which is invalid. So salat that are prayed during these times that are forbidden without a reason, then those salat is considered to be invalid, whether the person was aware of the ruling or unaware of the ruling. So that's concerning the matter. But the exceptions, meaning concerning their salat that can be performed during that time because of a reason. And then the Shaykh Hafidullah, he mentioned the first of those regarding that al-qadha al-fara'id. So regarding concerning al-fa'ita, those at times a person might miss or delayed in praying the compulsory salat due to a reason, as Ali mentioned, manama and salat, that the one who overslept, or the one who slept, or nasiya, or the person who forgot. Then the person, whenever he recalls or whenever he awakes, then he can pray even in the time which is forbidden. For example, that a person overslept is Fajr. So the person during the night, he got up, when he woke up, it was in the morning, and the time of Salat already passed. What is to be done? And the person woke up in the time where it is the forbidden time to pray. In that case, as the hadith mentioned, man nama and salat, that the one who slept, meaning the person who slept during the time of salat, then I mentioned, فَيَصَلِّيهَا إِذَا ذَكَرْ, that the person is to pray it regardless. So the person have a evidence, nas, a text to prove that if one was to miss the salat for a valid reason, meaning of these, the compulsory salat, whenever the person either awakes or recalls or is reminded, then the person, he prays this. He prays that salat. For example, another example, that a person, he forgot to pray dhuhr yesterday. And after Salatul Asr, or a few days ago, he missed Salatul Dhuhr. But during the time of Asr of the day after, he recalls that I actually missed Dhuhr a few days before. Then the person, he prays it, then he's allowed to pray is Asr that he missed or forgot a few days ago, that he's able to pray it in a time of Asr, after Asr, which is said to be the forbidden time, because he forgot and now he recalls. So it is to be made up at any time. So that's concerning hadith that prove the permissibility of making up or miss salat at any time, or the person was to get the so those were the cases that it shows an allowance, give allowance.
قال المؤلف حفظه الله, it is also permissible for one to perform the 2 rak'ahs of tawaf, circumambulating the Kaaba, at such times. As the Prophet ﷺ said, do not prevent anyone from circumambulating his house, i.e. the Kaaba, and from performing prayer any moment he desires, by day or by night. Related by At-Tirmidhi, who deems it a sahih, authentic hadith.
So the next time that he gave is the time concerning at-tawaf. Another example regarding of those time concerning at-tawaf, meaning concerning that after the person have performed at-tawaf, for the person performing, for example, umrah and the likes, that the person is allowed to pray after this time. But before we discuss this masala, just also an additional regarding what we mentioned before. So the ulama regarding that, those making up for a compulsory salat in these times that are forbidden. The forbidden time, is it allowed or not? The Shaykh here, he can somewhat is of the view that it is allowed, and that's the view of the jumhur of the ulama. So jumhur, majority of the ulama, take the position that in the forbidden time, it is allowed for a person to pray missed compulsory salah. And that's the view of the Malikiyah, Imam Shafi, and also Ahmed ibn Hanbal. So that's the call of Jumhur of the Ai. But with some of the ulama, and that's concerned the method of the Hanafiya wa Ahli Rahi, that they all that the person is not allowed to pray is to make up missed compulsory salat. So that's the view of the Ahnaf, that a person is not to do so until that time has passed. But the call of Jumhur of the ulama is the one that is given precedent based upon the evidence that is there. So the exception is there based on the hadith, as we mentioned, man nama an salat aw nasiyaha, the one who slept on his salat or forgot his salat. Then I mentioned for yusalliha, then he is to pray it idha dhakaraha, he is to pray it whenever he is reminded. So it shows concern that there is an exception regarding the compulsory salat that is missed. As for then the next matter concerning a tawaf, that also concerning that hadith he mentioned, the hadith to Sahih, that regarding making of tawaf at any time. So tawaf is to be done at any time during the day or night. So tawaf, regarding concerning after tawaf, then a person will pray rak'atayn regarding a tawaf after tawaf. Then this can be done at any time, whether during the night or day, whether during the forbidden time or outside this. It is allowed to do so at any time, and that's the call concerning that Imam Shafi Ahmed rahimahullah, and also what is narrated on Ibn Umar, and also Ibn Zubair, Ata, Ta'us, wa Abi Thor. So of the ulama who take the position that regarding tawaf, as-salat to tawaf, or ba'da tawaf, then it is allowed to be done at any time, including those times that are forbidden. That's the view of the ulama, and we have mentioned the names of those. Tafaddal.
قال المؤلف حفظه الله. So this is regarded as a permission from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to perform circumambulation at all times at which prayer is forbidden. This is because circumambulation is permissible at all times, and so are its 2 raka'ats. According to the most acceptable opinion of scholars, it is permissible at these times to perform prayer that have special causes, such as funeral prayer, mosque greeting prayer, which is performed on entering the mosque, and eclipse prayer. There are legal proofs supporting this permissibility, which are considered specific exceptions to the general rule of forbidding performing prayer at such times. Thus, forbidding performing prayer at such times means that it is forbidden to perform prayer with no special reason. Accordingly, it is not permissible to perform a supererogatory prayer which has no specific reason at such times. Furthermore, it is permissible to perform the 2 supererogatory raka'ats, units of prayer, of the Fajr prayer after performing the Fajr prayer. It is also permissible to perform the 2 supererogatory raka'ats of the Dhuhr prayer after performing the Asr prayer, especially when one combines both Dhuhr and Asr prayers. This is based on the fact that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made up for the 2 supererogatory raka'ats of Dhuhr prayers after the Asr prayer. End notes.
Then the author, Hafidullah, then he discussed concerning of this matter regarding of those salat that are said to be of exceptions, where one can pray them in those times that are forbidden. Then he mentioned that in general concern the ulama, they mentioned that they refer to concerning that these salawat that are said to be dhawatul asbab, those salat that has a reason. So there's a reason by way of text given allowance to pray those salat, and based upon of those salat concerning salat al-janaza, tayyatul masjid, salat al-kusuf, and the likes. So those salat that may have a reason, that some of the ulama, that they all take the position that these salawat can be prayed within the times that are forbidden, because there's a reason for praying those salat. So the person enter the masjid at whatever time that he enter the masjid, whether during the, including the forbidden times, it is allowed for him to pray before he sits. So that's concerning Salatul Janaza, that it can be done at any time. That's the call concerning of some of the ulama. So these salawat, because they are said to be of dhawatul asbab, then of the ulama who grant them the exception that they can be carried out at any time, and they are not restricted at any time. And then yes, the ulama who might somewhat have some restrictions regarding some of those salawat, that they are not to be prayed during the forbidden times. And of those concerning that you find different masail amongst these, that you find the ulama, there is a difference regarding those matters, those who say no and those who say yes. But the call regarding concerning zawatul asbab, that they are allowed to be done during those forbidden times. So those salawat that have a reason, then they can be prayed during these forbidden times. As for those salat that are said to be at-tatawwa, al-mutlaqa, nafila, that those salat that are said to be of those ones that are the ones that they're nafila but they have no reason, then they're not to be prayed. The person have some form of feel that have some zeal towards just want to pray some nafila after Asr, then that to be done, because there's no reason for it. Regarding that, is not included of the salat of the salawat of the wat al-asbab. So that's concerning the fasil between those matters regarding this discussion. So that inshallah ta'ala, that will be the end regarding, or a part of the discussion regarding of the ahkam of salat, is the person also being mindful and of the awareness that there are certain times that one is not allowed to pray, and also knowing what we are not allowed to pray during those times, and what we have given some form of concession that we are allowed to pray during those times, and able to, the person can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based upon ilm and not based upon al-jahil. وبالله تعالى توفيق وهادي إلى سبيل والآخر دعوانا الحمد لله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.